So should you always just approach the girl immediately? Well, most of the time the answer is yes, you should, because the more you think about doing it, the more difficult it gets, and the more sort of negative, intrusive thoughts can start sort of appearing in your mind, and makes it just more and more difficult. So generally speaking, as soon as you see a girl, you should just go in and not overthink it. I know it's easier said than done. It takes practice, it takes experience, but that's what you want to aim for, really. You don't want to be overthinking things too much. It's always better to just start moving your legs and just start getting your ass over there, basically, and then just worry about the consequences later, because the reality is that there are no consequences. It's all just this negative interpretation in your mind. When you're in there, it's easy. It's not that hard. It's not that hard just to say hello and just where you from, where you up to, just chat, whatever, basic chat. It's not that hard to do, but it's just the build up in your mind that makes it hard. So that's why when you can actually just build that initial physical momentum initially, just by literally moving your legs, as soon as you see the girl, everything just sort of works itself out from there. So that's one thing just to bear in mind. Yeah, you should always just pretty much approach immediately. In most cases, you should always pretty much approach as soon as you see her. Now, there is a caveat. It's not always the case that you should approach immediately. Sometimes it is worth waiting a little bit, because there might be some certain situations where it would actually be more ideal if, like, you wait a little bit and then approach. Usually it's when she's, for example, at traffic lights. It's always better to not approach at the traffic lights, because if you approach and it's the red man and then it goes green, then she's going to think, oh shit, I need to go now, because that's what like the crowd is doing. It's like herd mentality. So subconsciously, she starts moving away, and then all of a sudden, the investment that she might have had in terms of the actual conversation might sort of decrease quite a bit, and then you end up having to do like a walking, talking thing, which is not ideal. So it's always better just to approach her after the traffic lights. That's just common sense, really. Other situations as well, like she might just be in a really sort of crowded area in that particular moment, or there just might be loads of people surrounding her in that moment. You tend to get that actually. You tend to get that quite a lot at traffic lights, when she might just you might just notice her like when she's waiting to cross, and then she's surrounded by loads of other people. And then there's just a big crowd, and even after that sort of once she's crossed, there's still a massive crowd around her, so you have to sort of wait a bit for the crowd to sort of disperse a bit. That's always ideal, because it makes it just so much easier to actually approach her in the first place, and you're way less likely to get blown out, because when she's walking and she's surrounded by loads of people, it's hard to kind of get in front and do an effective stop, and it's also just a more chaotic environment as well, and she's gonna feel a bit more tense, and it's just gonna reduce the chances of her stopping and actually wanting to engage with you. So yeah, in that situation, it's literally, you just need to just wait for the crowd to just get out of the way, basically. And it does usually happen. Sometimes you have to just walk for like a minute or two, but usually it does tend to find, if you're patient enough, that you'll find that, okay, now it's a good time to actually approach. So that's one of those situations. The thing is with that is that, I've seen it with loads of guys, especially a lot of guys that I've coached, where they're basically waiting to approach, or waiting for the right time to approach in that kind of situation, but then they kind of get weirded out, because if they feel like they're following the girl, and then they have these like negative, intrusive thoughts coming into their mind, like they're thinking like, oh shit, I've been following for too much, oh this is weird, this is creepy. But it's like, it's just a negative sort of self-sabotage in many ways, because it's not, you're not following her because you're a fucking creep and that you're a weirdo. You're doing it, you're literally just trying to get into the best sort of position to make sure you have the best possible approach. So it's all about how you sort of interpret it in your mind. It's not like, oh, you're a fucking weirdo because you're following a girl for a minute. It's like, it's like you're in a position, she's in a position, you're just trying to optimize the situation. That's all there is to it. But then, in terms of that sort of whole following thing, I've seen it before where, even when there's plenty of space and you don't need to wait, but the girl has kind of walked past you and you need to sort of, go back around to approach you again. yeah, sometimes guys can have that same sort of feeling, that negative feeling. You know, they think that they're following, they think it's weird, they think it's creepy, and they're sort of, yeah, they have this sort of negative interpretation of that. But it's literally just like, okay, you're here, she's there, you need to, you know, get your ass over there. So of course you have to essentially follow her for, you know, a few seconds to get up to her, to catch up to her, so that you can approach her. It's as simple as that, you know, because, you know, if you're always waiting for her to be stationary, or if you're always waiting for her to be in a certain, you know, position which makes it easy for you to approach, then you're not going to do anywhere near as many approaches as you should be doing, and you're just limiting yourself, which is not ideal in any case, because especially nowadays you really have to make the most of every opportunity when it comes to approaching. So yeah, it's just what you tell yourself. You know, you could spin it into a negative, you could spin it into a positive. It's really up to you, really. But yeah, but generally speaking, you know, there's other examples as well. You know, when she might just be crowded by a bunch of people in an environment which is a bit chaotic. You know, for example, even in shops as well, like she might be looking into like in a particular area of a shop, and then there's a bunch of other people nearby. Obviously in a shop people tend to move around quite kind of slowly, but they do tend to move around. So sometimes it's worth waiting a little bit as well for her to be a little bit not surrounded by other people. I mean, a lot of guys do that because they don't want other people to overhear what they're doing, and they don't want people to know and hear and stuff like that, so because it makes them nervous. But actually, looking at it from the girl's perspective, it kind of works both ways as well, you know. So it's actually smart to actually not have too many other people around for her sake as well, because she might get a bit nervous or anxious about other people overhearing, and she might feel a bit of that spotlight effect that guys tend to generally have as well. So it's just, you know, little things like that that can, you know, optimize your approaches quite a bit. But, you know, if you find yourself just waiting in it for ages and ages, just do it anyway. Fuck it. You know, there's no point waiting for like 5-10 minutes to do the perfect approach. You know, if it's just constantly people around or whatever, it's better just to fuck it and just do it. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Okay, a few people overhear it, who gives a fuck? You know, it's so much better just to do it anyway. But yeah, but you just have to be, you know, think about, you know, just kind of go, you know, go for it eventually. You know, use your own intuition, use your own common sense, really, and certainly don't use it as an excuse to not do it. You know, because that could just be an easy excuse, like, oh, okay, I'm not going to do it because she's surrounded by other people. Okay, so fuck it, I won't do it now. Just move on. You know. And justify that as like a valid reason for not approaching, when actually it's kind of bullshit. It's like, no, wait for like a minute or two, and if it's still the same situation, then fuck it, just do it anyway. That should be how you sort of go about it, really.
Thanks for watching. If you want to be able to do what you see me do in these videos, head over to my online course, which covers pretty much everything you need to know about day game to get to a good level and actually implement it in a manageable way. Link is in the description.